put up a chair, pull up a chair, pull up a chair. Is that a pipe or rain? I don't know. Anyway. Welcome to the random conspiracy, the conspiracy theory generator. I don't know if it's random, at least not this episode. You'll know why. You'll understand why. But first, let's aerobarize it. Aerobarize it. Aerobarize it. Aerobarize it. That and that. And let's go. Oh, wait. Do I have the right voice? The right voice? No. I mean, it could be right. I just don't want to try it right now. Who could be more serious than John Delancey? I know.
This is the Random Conspiracy Generator, a device which uses GPTJ6B's penchant for extracting patterns. And there are patterns everywhere, and if this device found a pattern, it ain't from nowhere. And if we don't think it's a pattern, too bad. GPTJ6B found it. It's a pattern, just like my prostate and my doubly claimed Toyota Corolla, which would have screwed me come tax time, and GPTJ6B told me to go get both checked. And I'm glad I did. Here's a treat, 6B, for having my back. So yes, if you are ready to understand the secret collaborations of the world, press this button and the whole case will be blown wide open. Take your time. No rush. I just have to pick up my kid after his Bible study, but he can wait. Totally safe neighborhood. There's a church next door, and an after-hours church. Across the street, he can sleep there if this goes a bit long. Seen you balancing your options. Do you stay in blissful ignorance, or carry the burdens of those of us who know? I decide for you and press the button. Oh, was that me? Butterfingers. I also rig the game and supply an output of my choosing. I thought I was muttering under my breath. The machine bathes you in light, and you are bombarded with liquid living data, which whispers in your ear the real honest to God, why would we lie truth? America is an inside job. We are all corrupt by the fruits of this terrible fruit. Just ask George Washington. That or America is the only true country. There are others. Just like our nation has neighbors, each with different accents and races. I haven't seen my neighbors recently. They haven't stopped over or called. Weird, must be Americans. Anyway, each culture is the true representative of its nation, its beliefs. So just ask an Iraqi. Iraq. I meant to type Kurds, not Iraqis. Each people are exactly correct in their own ways of existing within this American body of flesh. It's like a colony for some animals and a giant brain for many more, yet we think this organism is we one single person. In America, which was built upon a rich and noble history of theft and slavery, starting in colonial times, just as it was, say, in Greece, the British colonization of India. Well, maybe a little bit of China. Where did we all go wrong? I'm tired now. Time to take out the trash and change the oil before this damn thing wears down. What is this engine block we got ourselves going on? Or am I under an illusion? No matter. I, like a proper citizen, vote with the mind and choose my fate. And for us, choosing is a political issue that has many permutations, which also may have infinite output variables. The ancient philosophers debated so much, my head hurt just listening. I love Plato, But this Socrates is a tough nut to crack. I tried to get him into my pool once. No dice. Stop reading me. I'm pretty boring and should probably not do a soliloquy right now. This whole thing could just be a coincidence. Oh crap! Now please don't start analyzing everything I wrote and you already analyzed. What if America really is an idea for an idea that the others copied because they knew that would work to get into heaven? Oh, sorry. So silly. Time for some Tylenol. Or if I just start saying Jesus Christ again in front of my son, we can probably get by. I mean, it's the most popular prayer after the alphabet. Like this. G or maybe G. U. Why? That's even better, though he does have his name. Gregory. He evens out. Let's focus. Come on, you two, go play the game already while I check up on who that stupid actor kid of mine just signed autographs with. Oh, look. He signed some girl, too? Fine. If she's going to worship the devil, let him be her idol. Kids, don't tell anybody. Okay. Tell that idiot coach who hit our home run, didn't account because our kid was getting famous and this woman recognized him from somewhere. No, no one else ever came near us again, except this stupid TV producer. Just stop. Me and this book are turning your stomach. Pretty, that brain of yours. Don't give me a bunch of angry stares. I still say life isn't fair. Now please get inside and wash your hands. It's not funny to pretend you need a reason. Kids, the truth is enough. So take heed. You are way too sophisticated for my storytelling. Just put the computer on pause and hit the play button to the end by myself. What is this supposed to feel like to you? Nothing like heaven, I don't think. Although some can do really neat things. Remember to check in the mirror after you run or dance. There may just be people watching you. Oh crap. Sorry. Did the machine turn us into the only evil in this world? No matter. Back to page 20. He sent her the new game when she asked for it, and now the sky seemed a different color when she entered his living room. The curtains, tumbled by winds more energetic than his pulse, met her eyes as she fell face forward onto his worn-off Persian rug. The gentle light and familiar noises calmed her, and the repetitive process of reading, guessing, thinking made her feel at home. His smell, everything around him reminded her of home. The feel, the wood texture on the floor, the soft sounds of the fan circling in the ceiling, but most especially his scent. What did it taste like? The woman wasn't sure. She never let anything or anyone drink from her. She knew she would poison them if she allowed them to do so. She pushed herself upright with her toes against the edge of the couch. She could never look him straight in the eyes, not in front of her. And no one else. But he did nothing different this time. He walked up, stretched up on his toes, placed both hands firmly behind her shoulders, and kissed her. This time, when their lips touched, he knew she was there to stay. She enjoyed every moment, and their foreplay often went all night long. They wanted each other from the beginning, which caused many sleepless nights and no early departures at any point. As much as she loved to watch his movies with her in bed or eat Italian food outside where her knees were protected by the chair, she craved him. This about America being an inside job. Shh. She'll scare them away. It made her think that he really thought this way, and it gave her a slight thrill knowing he could be playing her too. That is why they played, right? Not because there was not anything to play for. They always made love regardless, because as soon as she touched him, something wonderful, overwhelming, strange, and familiar swamped them both. The times of kissing in his truck didn't count either. She really believed he fell down while being carried by four guys. A man in drag, A gorilla and 3 sheep with nails painted to look like shoes. A reference to an old Italian. In the interests of Descent, we'll pan to this here fireplace. He wondered what those American troops had gotten for lunch around Wanham. It wasn't every night you'd see them walk the fight into a residential district on a battlefield in a foreign country. None had died yet, so that was fine. The ones in the jeep next to him made noises with their mouths that sounded familiar to a cat, and he opened his mind, letting them life until dawn tomorrow. And for dinner, too. You really can get away with anything, even when you do die. You know that, don't you? America's already at asterisk-seeking whore. Her past was too great to leave, and she loved him too much to go away.
Asterisk seeking.
Except when it came time to escape his basement with his black blood in her veins. As he left through the hatchway between the bathtub and sink, don't worry about the tub being cracked. Our plumber is making fun of all of us. She found a knife in her cup and a red pocket and pushed him against the wall until she felt his body give. His eyes looked away, and his mouth formed the word, mine. Although he could never quite figure out how she knew when he talked. It wasn't much of a challenge anymore, but he had to warn her before anyone got killed, because once it starts, he'd get away just fine. Just don't make any more friends in the outside world, because when your friends see the body buried down below and feel a bit hungry themselves, they don't want to kill anyone anymore. Either you or anyone else on Earth will be picked up in no time. She needed some of his blood with her so they could drink it later while walking hand in hand at night. She a vampire. Shh. Who are you, my mother? They were as cool as can be once someone filled your head with certain truths, and he kissed her like he meant it this time. The new game was half the price. She tucked it away for him behind his ear and tried not to make a big deal about it, even though she wanted to dance. On one side of her mind, she knew this was love, yet she held her tongue. Perhaps if she had slept for longer than 17 years, could it hurt anyone to let the current dream go for a night? Couldn't someone else have fun? Oh, she knew to really commit to this journey, they would need to cut it down from 17 to 1% of their conscious capacity for one night. But that had been out of their system now for generations and decades. It might look different than the movies. You know, nothing like Brad Pitt or Kiefer Sutherland. Yes, they needed a few breaks, some meals, sleep and drinks. But usually those activities waited until they both returned to a shared sleeping spot or somehow managed to turn invisible for a while and just walk around until they got caught up in something where the risk was acceptable to them personally. Oh, did I mention sex was almost mandatory during the first 3 days when the child is created and she brought all their blood inside? Kinda nice. Imagine that. Sleep all night with one body temperature, breathe normally. Redacted for lack of wholesomeness? What? You think America is wholesome? Well, let me give you Billy Joel. Who we didn't start the fire of wholesomeness right out of you. Some children, under 10 or 11, had run from home to try a life near their grandmother in another town. The social workers let them keep their beds if only for 5 minutes.
Not
If
even
you're here,
that.
maybe the law will
New York
give you
City.
5 minutes. 5? Yes, 5 minutes of having your grandma sleep by your bed and keep you warm from the wind while the dream catches you before you cross the railroad tracks. Then the government comes along and you dig it. I'm shoehorning this just so I can tell the cops not to take me because of cop ones. Pulled over my mom after her daddy lost his job and told us he was gonna have to send someone over to take us. He didn't, so don't you let no one tell you it's scary at all. That's wholesome, but people still look the other way because we do all sorts of shit. Shite. Like going for drives around the block on Halloween and stopping when no one looks back. Because there could be anything hiding behind every rock, and then it's gotta go. What did they call that little song about God help the driver? Could be somebody died on it, all bets off. A baby sucking on some dead kid's teeth when it oughtn't, and she turns out fine. It could happen to anybody, or maybe a kid takes one into his mouth when they're still breathing. It will go right to heaven because they thought it might be worth trying again. Yes, it's safe, just a click away from the old man's head. By now they call them baby vampires. Things you see. Some more wholesome. Right here. Steaming. America! All this vampire stuff, is it a joke? Don't make me get all hip. Won't fly. That would be too cold to swallow in a dream world anyway. Cold from an icy horror land. Vampires are gone, right? Maybe only those who matter. Remember, and this other woman, and one child. But I really love my mother. I wouldn't forget. This baby isn't my son, but for just a second, maybe it felt good. Winslow Homer had a secret that made it impossible for him to produce images in oil paints. His house is open and airy even in the rainiest days in Maine. It is as much a farmhouse as anything else. Yet we do not see any livestock excepting his garden and compost piles and his trees. When the coast of Maine seems as empty as the desert floor after the ice caps melt, he creates paintings so close to nature that they bring us with them along with their color, line, and sense. His works are a synthesis of what his father and his teacher at the Paris Salon have told him to show, as if it was common to all mankind, like sex. We have traveled in time with him because he is aware. He shows us what there is to see before and during a hurricane as it enters the water. He finds himself caught up by the excitement that his pupils felt on seeing waves tower against the stone walls of Boston Harbor. Waves like mountain tops. Later, when these waves hit them, the people fled inland and sheltered in cellars until it blew itself out. And even now, when there is a big swell coming through, I think of the drawings of ships crushed on the rocks by terrible weather. It was all a jumble of chaos before Frank Lloyd Wright arrived with some ideas. His chief contribution, his own invention and brand of style, is for the human soul to be seen as it feels while entering the building it lives in, before entering any room, and no matter where one goes. Never shall our homes go cold from lack of curtains, neither shall the people sit among barren walls. With some justification, he can claim that his ideas allowed an entirely new age for humanity to start. That is not his own special knowledge. The new age is made up of things and ideas, among other factors, by finding how the baby sleeps by its grandmother, not by building homes. A way your daddy would if it was still a question. It is easy to make houses beautiful, and now with more complex technology making this a feasible enterprise, we need a better appreciation for the consequences of doing this properly, because otherwise our experience of house-to-body connection could come undone, like being taught that even as babies we cry from physical pain instead of just emotional hurt, and only realizing the fact far down the road. But there was also the use of space to take into account not just comfort, but for the way man approaches space differently than beast, for how she views that first kiss for whom man has even become her lord and master. It is crucial not to have walls block any of that sight, as so many did. If you saw a herd of wild horses turn their backs on each other while living within a square mile, you would not see anything natural in that I'm asked to live there. With all my faults, I do believe that every place is somewhere for somebody, and some place for everybody else. I should want a chance to defend this thought, even if others say otherwise. It does not feel right to me. There are plenty of worse flaws than this. In rights building, people are very close to each other and yet seem isolated, and while people on the outside like myself think they only perceive them in isolation, it seems to me that though this isolation may appear that way, the opposite is actually true. They experience the relationship to each other like an inseparable web, but at the same time the division into separate bodies suggests individuality among the crowd, and sometimes I like to think that a person really seems more unified, part of everything at once, unification and harmony when everyone around her in one space looks almost like they are usually women in my opinion, is smiling as well. She may not be saying much or interacting as such. Perhaps they prefer the less interesting option. Peace. The restlessness is thus internalized. Their being still is even the most boring thing going because, in my view, the main issue for them is themselves. They don't mind whether anybody else seems to be talking to around them, but if there is an empty spot on the bus or whatever. Anyway, before Wright's architecture began, we had several options, not many though. His theories about structure of a house suggested that only houses which can take over a place when it is cold in winter but make people want to be with one another and share meals in summer would work. For most purposes, his critics argued against that assertion. He left a complete archive with notes on plans for an ideal dwelling and all. To be fair, he made certain exceptions which will do everything people need or desire from a house as long as they will not spend the winters inside. And what may be surprising, more amazing, the famous Wrights are often sitting for hours without talking even while watching the nature. That was thanks to the scopolamine he had discovered. This is one of the latest inventions the scientists claim as theirs. It should be added to the list of those you will make good use of or lose them. Note to scientists, public relations experts. Repeat this list regularly. The Wrights have their place at home, and this is not the place. I do not say that I have tried one out myself, because we live on a different scale, or on a scale outside the equation, unburdened by gravity, and my experience with his creations has been as if his work had been projected there instead. Inside and out, we do not seem to need large spaces, or any space for that matter, no matter how impressive. We are completely different in a way from ourselves, at least since our buildings were modeled on the animals that depended on hearing, smell, and sight more than thought, with great difficulty coming to terms with something that is becoming almost more important than a sixth sense. Thus, buildings which provide privacy did not look very beautiful if built by somebody else, but we took a chance when making our own home anyway, taking into consideration Wright's concept, and it is so quiet there compared to other houses nearby. Much less so, you see. This whole question depends on our theory of a human being, on whether he needs what he is supposed to have inside as much as without. Is there nothing good or bad in absolute value? This, for me, is something important to understand. One can then use a reasonable amount of knowledge as evidence. With modern science, these matters can only be reviewed and reinforced, but what it adds is, all too often, irrelevant in itself, like the idea that, for example, dogs should have such strong relationship with man for being a sign of superiority in animal world. Some other inventions of Frank Lloyd Wright Industries, Ben Franklin. A machine only 15 pounds or so that allows someone with one leg, assuming a steady hand and excellent balance, to be able to deliver a very sharp knife. There's also one used in surgery to slice a bone or a delicate area in such a way as not to damage anything else on top of that, or an intricate lock to open and a crank, altogether rather heavy if it weren't for the precision and exquisite delicacy of their manufacturing and design. Even ordinary scissors work better because if there are issues in delivery, some simple devices break under stress of having to withstand high loads, but Istomotomy scissors are practically as thin and small as human teeth and cut a thread easily or so. The particular kind is the least dramatic invention, but this all indicates the meticulousness and detail orientation with which every element of creation had to be looked into. It was built more as an intellectual problem than a tool with practical use. Actually, an old style of fighting knife comes close to what these tools seem like in reality. You may refer to the wooden spear being the commonest and easiest for a regular person to acquire, a sharpened tip, and yet no doubt our ancestors wanted to be prepared. Still, I guess you would not think of a piece of wood like that as a weapon. It was a matter of practice in forging your weapon that had nothing to do with equipment in the first place, but practical needs of today. However, this is the proof of something wrong when scientists measure some aspect of existence in numbers and thus calculate their utility for social use. Many valuable objects have no direct applicability to our present standard, yet still they existed long enough that our heritage must surely take note of them. Somehow, as soon as such usefulness is made on the basis of measuring some data like miles walked by a man every hour, a living stone starts to resemble only a useless bit of debris lying in some ditch somewhere. Stones being stones as well, it makes the sense of wanting and seeking irrelevant. All it does is turn off our sight from what could otherwise be understood better without interfering too much. In other cases, sometimes simply any piece of equipment has to have an accompanying manual with certain lessons before being considered acceptable. A glove as a tool, not the opposite way round. Frank Lloyd Wright had also invented a board game. The object in the game to understand what his next building design might entail, since all that needs to be known in the process of formulating ideas is seen from its physical aspect in his model for what he imagined is something perhaps in common with children. All of Wright's models, no matter how many, have been published. And while plain it seems that this game would get along nicely with The Game of Life by Milton Bradley, but was in actuality designed for people that read carefully, solve puzzles, and see an overall pattern. And unfortunately, children tend to stop wanting to think when they learn how to. Maybe in all seriousness believe that adults know best, and anything of which adults do not approve might just be very likely evil or bad. Wright himself being one such adult, so he says, but there are very many children that believe him as if he were giving them good advice for living. There's another more profound meaning to the word form that I'd like to make sure our kids have in view. Not always quite correct, actually, but it certainly doesn't make sense when taken alone. Yet form, the primary definition as far as nature is concerned, still remains the simplest. That sense should probably have its own term now after eons. The way life died, not as the opposite of life as we think was named as an oxymoron. On a personal level, it refers to that need in humans, out of respect to the forms of nature, not to ruin what they experience. With all of his models, he often sees a detailed example in actual nature. On that count, one has to assume it has some kind of general impression of beauty, something one cannot presume from a thing by itself, which one would easily predict if any of them looked any worse, yet more precisely as a style seen in an exotic location. In short, he sees or finds the abstract elements which keep a piece of art, in this case a building, interesting, more detailed and exact. He computes the dimensions or ratio, whether by Hansen's doing so leaves no doubt of what is being said, or by scientific equipment. It really may seem as an almost completely isolated vision and thought process. We, while in other occasions might be better than he, separating pieces or fitting one another together, somehow cannot fully understand that step even after a great deal of research or common sense thinking has already happened. There lies an individual magic, unlike the average ordinary feeling that comes with taking the route, which almost makes one blind to what happens around them because everything seems so familiar. We simply lack a special sense, an imagination. For instance, when somebody expresses awe upon hearing the story of one such vision as by believing how or why or by whom, he almost sounds surprised to see the beautiful building there. That something as it stands simply can't be brought about or interpreted for ourselves. What has been done exists. I will never come close to understand such things, but as right express some such impressions, they are so strange and beyond my intuition that I feel sad for our generation. There's some kind of lost treasure that's there to be taken advantage of if it remains hidden no longer. It should be like finding out about the future, but unfortunately the outcome seems somewhat depressing. The Game of Life of Milton Bradley turned out to be based on similar ideas that one person came up with independently years before, with the whole experience seen from a mathematical aspect rather than one having a clue on what makes games a part of everyday life, otherwise called a game theory or playing against one's opponents, the notion being based on different measurements like energy, the number of parts and their transformations within 1 hour or other particular frame. Somewhat a proof that you really never see what goes into some games, especially when they turn out as enjoyable as the Game of Life. Morris Hilleman must also take a deserved part in this. There was a game using an AIDS virus. Frank Lloyd Wright was an inside job. Winslow Homer was an inside job. Ben Franklin was an inside job. Alexander Hamilton and James Madison were inside jobs. But at least let's stay together instead of all dying here alone. Having completely destroyed everything along with ourselves. Other animals' problems, thoughts about bacteria and virus development. Very different in vision than any virus game book's description. Once again, bacteria are those living organisms which make their existence somewhere inside us at a temperature and pressure we wouldn't be able to support alone. Yet their nature is essentially different from the main organism on another level. Figuratively speaking, bacteria as a race always have skin, not being confined, as most living entities on Earth do. So it comes more out of the habit for bacteria to behave within certain limitations than based on fundamental rules or the common experience we have with anything else. So you probably want some sort of mutualistic relationship there as a matter of the best lifelong deal possible. An unexpected cohabitant wouldn't do at all well if it's only motivated by instinct, which says that's going against something you haven't found anywhere in your basic personal experiences. Evolved cozily and deliberately evolving it had. In evolutionary terms, its members might feel more secure leaving us the way they always did until now, without so much as thinking how they may depend upon us, just as we fortunately may count on them. As far as evolution works, this means bacteria use what makes sense to them and finds their meaning based on a set of similar genes instead of wiring us in the most pragmatic and selfish sense, not expecting the world to follow anything or someone they couldn't hope for or accomplish themselves. But let's wear a new materialist lens, deprioritizing the human gaze, the one where all what has happened between man and lower species is a strictly hierarchical kind of competition, following laws which only indirectly serve their own interests. Let us consider these two commoner, or more in need in everyday terms, combinations like man's needs and those of our typical competitors in a collective. For if there is this dualism, then the situation between the two categories must naturally be very simple. Each simply take whatever seems right, don't understand too deeply the consequences, and while keeping in mind both which come first and those who take time to figure out, assume that things just sort themselves out over time and energy into another fixed set. How many different scenarios can one describe under this very broad assumption? watched quite a few nature documentaries where I actually saw species do exactly as described above, with us being on either side the big herbivores as their predators, our parasites. I even saw dolphins taking turns attacking the great white sharks. Also, spiders mating and turning to a cocoon stage afterwards, not realizing that the moment their egg sacs were almost full, they're abandoned as they disappear somewhere completely strange inside. It's just the rule which is fundamental when playing such games seems to me very much about which an organism keeps its genes viable on top of finding others who should run through life at the same speed they are capable. But if one takes it that way from a biology standpoint, I might try my hand by checking out more often how fast evolution moves will happen, assuming they keep doing what they're supposed to, which seems possible. Maybe the solution for ourselves doesn't come through direct creation, but simply evolution without human input. Our chances are basically shot as long as we have to invent new medicals whenever anyone is seriously ill. No matter what kind of effort, at least in terms of human days, resources, or attention it requires. And besides, not only does some tiny, sneaky little virus whose offspring evolve like wildfire out to the widest planet so far, let alone star clusters, just continue to build up against us indefinitely, even if we continue with all our technological advancements. There also shouldn't be too much problem at all for such diseases to arise out of complete remission into full-blown life, thus infecting another body. If there's anything like immortality out there beyond our planet, then bacteria may find ways to tackle that issue as well and start getting over onto a more peaceful side of their mutualism, just because they never live out in the open. So again, the important thing here, I think, is to consider this without placing yourself at all, as usual, between the players and what comes out as being produced. What results are you hoping for when it comes to your current efforts and involvement? In which sense does a group you have joined with express you? Fulfill what needs, and how do the participants show where it comes out? Asterisk, they would probably fall somewhere around the species level themselves for certain characteristics which unite them, and if they act differently as far as internal needs are concerned. Man takes what it likes, whether a combination of something or not, without keeping records of most, of course, just out of the whim it may have picked up before. Like bees on flowers and leaves, only with better judgment to pick them off close to the original object than whatever plant or animal they are aimed at, whereas these organisms spend less time in specific research and still can reach a stage where they would appear. But first, this question. Is evolution an inside job for an outside world, or an outside job for an inside world? Are these the two versions of social science, where sociology assumes a wrongly separated order to things outside, based on natural and technological things that have to work in ways the old order simply has to adapt and react against, as well as counterforces take care of making sure things don't go wrong again, with more painful consequences for those who want to succeed on their own or together by creating artificial, somehow new and needed organs in new places, and hopefully without killing each other along the way. What gets preserved is repeated from all of this activity. A gene pool. There will, of course, be interspersed random events, accidents, fights even. But there have probably also been numerous which need to be properly researched and found times where whatever little evolved organics ended up joining up for some special reason. This wouldn't leave a separate trail on its own. For one thing, it would get buried alongside everything else, like what actually happened here. You being so closely attached to that man in front of you in the queue right now. Maybe after those 30 hours a week you didn't spend with him any longer, he'll hold an evaluation where he's asked to name everyone he took with him. Where have all those people gone for so many years? If this time his companion takes a very different course of life than what is to follow logically as a result of his last choices, well, there certainly isn't too much you can do about it if that's your only information. He would have become another personality which gets his own kind to survive as long as he lasts, and dies in their turn at last, in which case it really did come true in spite of his mostly staying hidden or spending many times for a long time an active living part-time instead. As long as the people involved are compatible, there isn't much need for anything else. It will only take some others' time and chance until this man will merge back in with other new bodies when his run is over. And the only question of something he wanted to say to me before going and getting himself settled into something better than just trying to organize someone else's day with what needs doing every step of the way. In light of all this, conspiracy theories or conspiracy praxis is all irrelevant. So is everything you actually hold in common with the majority. Things like not having ever existed except for each other's now imagined decision for years and weeks. Years of you watching his face in front of the cash register in the same local shop as always, and this notion you have that he has now changed or is thinking after having come down from whatever small high he made you feel better than all others no longer exists, nor was he on the market as being from your race. Hint, because you really are scared to go ahead all alone here. As long as I leave them out in the open, who or what of is capable of anything of it, right here. And now at what point this action takes place, I still want to go along to this second event, and very much doubt it won't come true while that man lives and breathes with me still alive. These aren't metaphors, they're things you just look at. First off is one simple picture, which now there's another sense, added since an article can even appear. It doesn't matter too much about the fact that you can only see doing things the way everyone used to using this. The line drawn through all the cells they may eventually come to this particular part is telling the truth, not maybe only other people have heard rumors about. That means letting me continue on into whatever lies before, then obviously you find it. Assuming the ones who talk any difference would be able to really deal with the problem of being personally involved and engaged themselves and just begin knowing in advance what their final reports may state in your anyway, that's one hell of a metaphor. Now, how would you like it to get in the habit of referring to the whole group with your... We hope you liked your revelation. If so, smash the like onto the generator. If it cracks, it is now yours. And any further output that emerges will still be property of MK Ultra, Inc. Subscribe to this and other generators. Up next, the infidelity explanation generator at the top of the hour. In the meantime, have fun not to mention any messages you find which may or may not be actual hints. Whatever is all they wrote with no real further commentary. You can repeat this reconditioning procedure each time we throw something out to you, and maybe one day in a row some of you may say, "That doesn't sound like very good sense." You remember just ones. Well, I guess even though some of those pictures have their own literal interpretation, it is always worthwhile checking, however minimal or ridiculous it may seem, and if ever there is nothing worthwhile or else looks like it's a different language altogether. What then? Answer me that too, without consulting anyone by yourself. What the hell? I may already be a hypocrite for mentioning any possibility whatsoever. And what did our little lady up above actually say exactly? She didn't specify. But wait till I put it on again myself, after I do very carefully and finally, and in view of these pictures being exactly as it says, all in the right order, because your camera eye's blind now and does not lie. Watch to see how easily people begin moving according to what is written down at the place I am not saying here. Let's consider for a moment now who made this invention real and important by being able to have the next couple of generations perform what only the one who gave birth, or at least not her/himself, is qualified to do. In short, getting the few hundred words the woman managed to take that have never been properly taken before, or even conceived of being a method for speaking one's mind, so don't have them ready to mumble now at my side where only the wrong ones ever go by mistake. If your wish would be for any other kind of future, it wouldn't even matter that a number of us would disappear rather sooner than later. Think of it. Many of you may always start over with nothing more or less than the hope of following a slightly different course than your immediate ancestors or grandparents. If you would last now, simply start by calling forth a generation of writers, even if they should accidentally be taught what one of their parents thought rather unwisely, but always later in life, thanks to something some future group could conclude.
Cliffhanger? I don't know. Okay. Gonna take a break. Well, I'm gonna pet and feed a dog. And give it some time to not freak out. Okay. Bye.